The Monarch program, or how the global population can be manipulated. In the midst of the subtle cerebral deception practiced on the gullible population through a multitude of manipulated mediums lies one of the most diabolical atrocities perpetrated on a segment of the human race, a form of systematic mind control that has permeated every aspect of society for almost 50 years. To objectively evaluate what follows, some should revise their preconceived ideologies about the dualistic nature of the world. By solving the philosophical question of whether we are born good or born bad, we manage to outline our own perception of reality and, thus, the spiritual variable in the equation of life. The following is supported by declassified U.S. government documents, officials with ties to the U.S. intelligence community, publications by those oriented toward mental health, and interviews with survivors subjected against their will to a highly complex form of mind control trauma-based, known as Monarch programming. Monarch programming is a method of mind control used by many organizations with secret purposes. This is a continuation of the project developed by the CIA and tested on civilians and military, MK Ultra. The methods are sadistic, its purpose is to traumatize the victim, and the results are horrific: the creation of a mind-controlled slave that can be triggered at any time to perform any action required by the programmer. The mind control technique includes elements of satanic ritual abuse and multiple personality disorder, using a combination of psychology, neuroscience, and occult rituals to create slaves with an alter ego personality that can be manipulated through programming. Monarch slaves are used in areas such as military slavery, sex, and the entertainment industry by several organizations that are connected to the world elite. One of the earliest writings referring to the use of the occult for mind manipulation can be found in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It is a compilation of rituals, heavily studied by secret societies, that describes methods of torture and intimidation to create trauma, the use of potions, drugs, and spells, hypnotism, ultimately resulting in the complete enslavement of the initiate. Other events that are attributed to black magic, witchcraft, and demonic possession, where the victim is animated by an outside force, also underlie Monarch programming. However, in the 20th century, mind control became a science, in the modern sense of the term, where thousands of subjects were systematically observed, documented, and experimented on. The first systematic studies of mind control trauma were conducted in Nazi concentration camps by the German Dr. Joseph Mengele, famous for his sordid concentration camp human experiments, particularly on twins. A part of his work that is rarely mentioned is his mind control research. His research served as the basis for the program called MK Ultra and was confiscated by the Allies. In 1776, a Bavarian Jesuit by the name of Adam Weishaupt was appointed by the House of Rothschild to centralize the power component of the mystery religions into what is known as the Illuminati. This was an amalgamation of powerful occult bloodlines, elite secret societies, and influential Masonic fraternities, with a desire to create the framework for a new world order. Their official purpose was to bring universal happiness to the human race. The hidden intention was to gradually increase the control over the masses, thus becoming the masters of the planet. Monarch programming. Although there has never been any admission of the existence of Monarch programming, leading researchers have studied the use of trauma on certain subjects for the purpose of mind control. Some survivors, with the help of therapists, managed to diffuse and present horrific details of the treatments they were subjected to. Monarch slaves are primarily used by organizations to perform specific tasks, without questioning commands, without remembering their actions, and if discovered they commit suicide automatically. They are perfect as scapegoats for high-level assassinations, Sirhan, ideal candidates for prostitution, slavery, and XXX movie productions. The Monarch programmers cause intense trauma to the subjects through the use of electric shocks, torture, abuse, in order to force them to dissociate from reality, an ideal solution for some people when they are faced with unbearable pain. The ability of the subject to dissociate is a major requirement, and which is apparently easiest to find in children who come from families that have been abused for several generations in a row. Mental dissociation allows the creation of compartments in the subject's psyche, which can be programmed and triggered on demand. The origin of the name. Monarch programming is named after the monarch butterfly, an insect that begins life with a caterpillar larval stage, representing undeveloped potential, an inactive pupal stage, programming, and a spectacular metamorphosis into a butterfly. Monarch slave. Programming method. The subject is called slave by the programmer, who, in turn, is perceived as the master or god. About 75% are female because they have a higher tolerance for pain and tend to dissociate more easily than men. Monarch programmers seek to compartmentalize and separate the subject's psyche into multiple alter egos using a multitude of techniques. Abuse and torture, locking them in boxes, cages, coffins, often with an opening for air or an oxygen tube, binding with ropes, chains, handcuffs, extremes of heat and cold, including submersion in water, ice, and chemicals, peeling of the superficial layers of the skin, stabbing, blinding light, electric shocks, forced ingestion of body fluids, blood, urine, feces, meat, hanging in painful positions, deprivation of sleep, food, or fluids, drugs to create illusion. Confusion, amnesia often by ingestion of toxic chemicals to create pain or illness, including chemotherapeutic agents, pulled or dislocated limbs, application of snakes, spiders, larvae, rats and other animals to induce fear and disgust, asphyxiation by suffocation or drowning with immediate resuscitation, harm or threats of harm to family, friends. Use of illusions and virtual realities to create confusion for him and make him an unreliable person in the event of a disclosure. Once personality dissociation occurs, an internal world is created and alter egos can be programmed using tools such as music, movies, especially Disney productions, and fairy tales. These audio-visual aids reinforce the programming process through images, symbols, meanings, and concepts, the programmer using them to trigger another personality. The most common images observed by slaves are trees, the Kabbalistic tree of life, infinite loops, ancient symbols, spider webs, mirrors, masks, castles, labyrinths, demons, butterflies, bunnies, clocks, robots, red shoes, and dresses. Some of the films used in Monarch programming include The Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland, Pinocchio, and Sleeping Beauty. For example, by watching The Wizard of Oz, he is taught that somewhere over the rainbow is happy. It is the place he must go to escape the unbearable traumas to which he is subjected. Levels of programming. The identified levels of Monarch programming are named after the brainwaves associated with them. Alpha is considered the basic level, characterized by extremely pronounced memory retention, physical strength, and visual acuity. Alpha programming is achieved through the deliberate splitting of the personality. Essentially, it causes the brain to split left-right to then allow the programmed union of left and right by stimulating neurons. Beta is used as sexual programming, slaves. This programming removes all learned moral beliefs and stimulates primitive, uninhibited instinct. The cat personality can emerge at this level. Known as kitten programming, this is the most visible type of programming of female celebrities, models, actresses, and singers who have undergone this type of programming. Delta is known as criminal programming and was originally developed to train special agents or elite soldiers in covert operations. The subjects are fearless and very systematic in completing missions. I receive suicidal, self-destruct instructions at this level. Theta is psychic programming. Subjects are programmed to have much greater telepathic and psychic abilities. Due to its obvious limitations, various electronic systems, brain bioimplants, have been created and used. These are used in combination with high-performance computers and sophisticated satellite tracking systems. Many of the programming techniques perfected in these experiments are widely applied through mass media. News, movies, music videos, commercials, and television shows are designed using the most advanced mind programming techniques. The programming is periodically renewed and reinforced through visual, auditory, and written agents. Some of the early programming themes included The Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland, both saturated with occult symbols. Many of the recent Disney cartoons and films are made for the dual purpose of desensitizing the majority of the population using subliminal imagery and neurolinguistic programming and deliberately creating specific triggers and keys for the core programming of impressionable Monarch children. A prime example of how subliminal programming works is to look at the recent Disney blockbuster Pocahontas, curiously billed as a 33rd degree animated film, the highest degree of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. In the film, Grandma Willow is a mystical 400-year-old tree who teaches Pocahontas to listen to her heart and helps her realize that all the answers are within. Grandma Willow constantly speaks in double entendre and uses inversion. Sometimes the right way is not the easiest way. Derived esoteric fact: the left path, the path to destruction, is the easiest. In the Illuminati's structured systems of multiple personality disorders, the willow represents the occult powers of the Druids. The intrinsic images of the branches, leaves, and roots of the tree are very significant, as dark spiritual connections are associated with the willow programming, and these are: the branches are used to scourge victims in rituals for the purpose of purification. A willow tree can withstand major weather disturbances, storms, and is known for its flexibility. Victims or survivors of the programming describe the willow branches enveloping them with no hope of escape. The willow's deep root system makes the victim or survivor feel as if they are falling deeper and deeper into an abyss when they are in a hypnotic trance. Music plays an instrumental role in programming through combinations of variable tones, rhythms, and words. Horror master Stephen King's numerous novels and subsequent films are used, credible sources claim, for such nefarious purposes. One of his latest books, Insomnia, features a photograph of King along with the catchphrase "We never sleep," telling for someone with multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder, written under an all-seeing eye. A partial list of other media used to reinforce core programming are Pinocchio, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Lion King, E.T., Star Wars, Ghostbusters, Trancers 2, Batman, Bewitched, Fantasy Island, Reboot, Tiny Toons, probably the cartoon short, DuckTales, probably the Donald cartoon, The Dead Sea Scrolls, The Tall Book of Make-Believe. Some movies that depict and portray aspects of Monarch programming are Hellraiser 3, Raising Cain, Labyrinth, Telephone, Johnny Mnemonic, Point of No Return, The Lawnmower Man, and Closet Land. The most incriminating claim that a government official has made regarding the existence of the Monarch Project was extracted by Anton Chaikin, a writer for the publication The New Federalist. When the official director of the CIA was asked directly, "What can you tell us about Monarch?" he nervously and ambiguously replied, "We stopped at between the 1960s and the early 1970s. Suffice it to say that society, in its apparent state of cognitive dissonance, is generally in denial about the overwhelming evidence of this diverse conspiracy. Numerous victims or survivors of Project Monarch are in desperate need of help. However, the vast majority of people are too self-absorbed to show any compassion to these few wounded individuals. Apathy has taken over the minds of the masses, who choose to exist in the comfort of this world. Reality has become obscure due to relativism and selfishness.